Today on Upfront, taking a knee. President Trump ignites a national debate on NFL player protests. Next, the Wisconsin congressman who took a knee on the House floor and his message for the president. Then former radio talk show host Charlie Sykes, his new book, and conservatism in the age of Trump. Plus, the Milwaukee County judge running for state Supreme Court.
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. It's Sunday, and millions of Americans will spend part of this day watching one of America's favorite pastimes, football. But lately, the NFL and much of the country have been embroiled in a controversy over a few players kneeling during the national anthem, protests that began over racial injustice. President Trump made the player protests a topic of national conversation by calling on NFL owners to fire the players. The Packers on Thursday night made their own statement, linking arms to show unity. They asked fans to join in. Most did not. Democrats accused Trump of dividing the nation, and Wisconsin Congressman Mark Pocan made his point by taking a knee on the House floor last week. Congressman Pocan joins us now on Up Front. Congressman, it's good to have you back on the program.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here.
So what was that about, taking a knee on the floor of the House of Representatives?
Yeah, you know, I think I've kind of had it with where we're at with this president and what he's doing to this country, especially when it comes to race relations. I think when we had Charlottesville in August happened, when the president came out and talked about very fine people who are Klansmen, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, that's not the job of the president. The president's supposed to unite this country, and we're seeing his true colors. And we've seen it over and over and over in policies, but then to hear him say very fine people who are white supremacists, and then to watch how he acts when a black football player takes a knee for nonviolence, he criticizes him more than a white supremacist who commits violence. That's insane. And we need to make a bigger statement because, again, our country is so much better than this. We have to make sure its promise is available to everyone. And unfortunately, especially under this president, it hasn't been.
Briefly, do you think this whole taking a knee phenomenon is disrespectful to veterans, to the flag, to our nation in any way?
No, in fact, I think it's just a different way to show your patriotism because you love this country so much, and that's what the players have been saying over and over and over. And I've heard veterans say the same thing, but they also can't stand for a place where you simply get pulled over or shot for being unarmed simply because of the color of your skin. So this president, unfortunately, it used to be people would wear hoods when they did something with a large degree of racism. Now they go openly in the streets like they did in Charlottesville, and I think that's what we're trying to change.
Let's talk about what's happening in Congress right now. The president has come out with his tax reform plan. Is there anything in that plan, based on what you know about it, is there anything that you as a Democrat could support?
Well, I think we've seen some still rough outlines, right? I think the president said, we'll let Congress deal with the middle class, but then here's what I'm going to do for everyone who's wealthy. And there's a lot of breaks for those who are wealthy. And just the little outline he's shown on maybe doubling some of the deductions for the middle class, when you start looking at what he's going to remove, you actually might go backwards rather than forward. So we have to see actual details as opposed to the outline that was put out there. But my fear is just that. I mean, I don't think one penny should go to the wealthiest in this country. If we're going to do tax reform, it should be for the middle class and those aspiring to be in the middle class. And so far, you know, by lowering the corporate rate, by lowering taxes on the wealthiest and changing some of the other provisions for the wealthiest in this country, that's not what we need to be doing, and he's taking care, again, of people who maybe are members of Mar-a-Lago and his social set, but not the vast majority of people in Wisconsin.
Briefly, do you think the corporate tax rate in this country needs to be lower? Is it too high?
You know, I think the effective rate is what you really need to look at. Our corporate tax rate is about 35%. The effective rate is somewhere between 16 and 18%, what people actually pay because of all the deductions. Could you get rid of some deductions and lower the rate? Absolutely. I think the difficulty in that, I would argue 20% of my meetings in Congress are people coming to say, I have this one tax provision I want to keep, but then go ahead and do reform. It's going to be difficult to get that done. But I think if they really keep proceeding with a model that's going to cost the middle class more in order to give a tax break to the wealthiest, that's going to be a proposal that's going to be very difficult to get done.
Let's talk about the future of Obamacare. We saw Republicans try and pass a measure that would have essentially repealed Obamacare, send block grants back to the state. They can design health care. That's obviously been defeated for now. Is that the key word here, for now?
For now. Look, they've had 7 years that they've complained about the Affordable Care Act to come up with a solution. We get to this session, here we are almost in October, and they don't have a plan yet again on how to deal with this. And the most recent we're hearing is they're trying to find a way to reopen, to get back to a reconciliation process again, where they can do it through the budget to get 50 votes instead of 60. They're not going to let this go. The problem is every single proposal seems to get worse. Originally they were around 20 million people losing insurance. This last one could have been up to 32 million people losing insurance. If you get rid of, allow someone like Scott Walker, who was the first governor in the country to say he might get rid of the requirement for people with pre-existing conditions to have access, that could have ripple effects, because if then they say you can buy insurance across state lines, you could affect people nationally when one governor, like Scott Walker, makes a decision that's not good for their constituents. So I'm real concerned that they're going to keep doing this because their donors are telling them you better deliver on something. We've given you a lot of money, and they're not doing it in the best interest of the people of the country.
Are you concerned that Obamacare, in essence, is dying a slow death? Because now you have insurers who are very nervous about whether or not they're going to get paid. You're talking about premiums that are going to be pretty significantly higher in many places. Isn't the program in trouble as it continues down this path of uncertainty?
We need to stabilize the Affordable Care Act. 20 million people now have access that didn't previously. If you have a pre-existing condition, you can get insurance. You don't have a lifetime cap. We know the benefits now of the Affordable Care Act. The problem is if they don't enforce the IRS mandate, that'll make it collapse. They're already taking away all the advertising money to get people to sign up. That's going to cause problems. They're threatening what they're going to give to the insurance companies. You can't, by their other actions, try to kill it. This is too important for real people. This isn't a political football, so to speak. This is something that affects real people throughout Wisconsin and across the country. And I'm really nervous that they're so desperate to have a win on this that they're not thinking what they're actually doing to people who need health care.
Appreciate your time. Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan from the Madison area. Thanks very much for being with us. We're asking about the taking a knee controversy we were talking about earlier. That's over on our Upfront Facebook page. What do you think about what the players are doing or what the president has said about it? Tell us by liking and sharing Upfront on Facebook. Coming up next on Upfront, conservatism in the age of Trump. Former talk radio host and author Charlie Sykes on his new book, How the Right Lost Its Mind. That's when Upfront continues.
Upfront with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.